Good evening and welcome to Primetime News and Mitv Plus. I am Layo Shubo for Lauren Shaw in our top stories for tonight. Tinubu hails Professionality at 100 commissions flying over in Akure. Federal government scraps UTM requirement for NCE candidates. INEC to mobilize over 1.4 million core members for 2027 elections. On the foreign scene, Israel jails soldiers for desecrating Virgin Mary statue in Lebanon. And in sports, Spain's Nico Williams sustains hamstring injury before World Cup. And now the news in details. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu arrived in Nairobi, Kenya in the early hours of Monday to participate in the Africa Forward Summit, a major continental gathering focused on economic transformation, regional cooperation, and sustainable development in Africa. President Tinubu's aircraft touched down at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport at about 12:18 a.m. local time. The president was received on arrival by Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi, the Kenyan High Commissioner to Nigeria, Isaac Barashina, alongside senior Kenyan government officials and members of Nigeria's diplomatic mission in Kenya. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has described Afenifere leader Pa Ruben Fasoroti as a steadfast voice for Nigeria's unity, justice, and the dignity of citizens as the elder statesman marks his 100th birthday in the state. Represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, President Tinubu praised Fasoroti's lifelong commitment to democracy, education, and advocacy for the oppressed, saying the elder statesman sacrificed personal comfort in defense of fairness and national unity.
To live is to count the blessings of God from the day one was born. Yet the true measure of life is not found in the counting of years, but in the consecration of those years to a purpose larger than oneself. Many may arrive at the gates of 100 years with little more than the testimony of time. A chosen few live 1,000 lifetimes in one, compressing into a single journey the courage of prophets, the patience of teachers, the sacrifices of patriots, and the dignity of elders. The legend we gather to celebrate today is an eloquent reminder of this miracle. Chief Dr. Ruben Pamuide Pashoranti stands out because he has been a long-standing witness to history and because he never watched history from the safety of the pavilion. We live in a country where those privileged to serve the people too often end up serving their own interests. When public duty becomes private appetite, the nation is made unsafe for the vulnerable. When power forgets compassion, the weak are abandoned to the cold margins of society. This is why people
Also lauding the Afenifere leader, Governor Aiyedatiwa of Ondo State described him as a symbol of integrity and principled leadership, adding that his life reflects selfless public service and commitment to truth. Ogun State's Governor, Dakpo Abiodun, in his tribute, described him as an iconic Nigeria whose contributions to national development remain invaluable. In a speech read on his behalf by his younger sister, Pa Fashoranti thanks President Tinubu, Vice President Shettima, governors, royal fathers, family members, and guests for honoring him at the milestone celebration.
For the generations he may never meet, but has always believed in. His life is a bridge between where we came from and who we must become. For Pa Fashionti, public service is not a means of personal gain, and leadership is a sacred duty. He represents a generation that believes that character matters, that honor matters, and that power without conscience is dangerous. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Pa Fashionti has lived through some of the most defining moments in Nigeria's history, from pre-colonial to independence, the turbulence of democracy and military autocracy. Through every season, he neither abandoned his convictions nor traded principles for convenience. That is why his voice still commands respect across Nigeria today.
And that is my greatest reward. In politics, I chose to serve, not to take. Afenifere taught me that leadership is sacrifice. A politician with a large heart bears no grudge. I held office without bitterness, and I leave office with clean hands. That is the example I want the younger generation to follow.
The federal government has exempted candidates seeking admission into the Nigerian Certificate in Education (NCE) program who possess a minimum of 4 credit passes from sitting for the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination (UTME). The Minister of Education, Dr. Maruf Alausa, announced the new policy during the 2026 policy meetings on admissions to tertiary institutions in Abuja. He, however, stated that all candidates seeking admission into NCE programs must still register with the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM. According to Alausa, factors such as affordability, proximity, cultural alignment, and strong local demand for teacher education make colleges of education strategically positioned to expand access to tertiary education. The minister also reaffirmed the federal government's position that 16 years remain the minimum age for admission into tertiary institutions, except in exceptional cases involving specially gifted candidates handled under clearly defined guidelines. Meanwhile, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM, has announced the approved admission benchmarks for tertiary institutions across Nigeria for the 2026 academic session. The decision was reached during the annual policy meeting on admissions held in Abuja, where education stakeholders deliberated on admission requirements, screening processes, and reforms aimed at improving transparency and access to higher education. Our correspondent, Marianne Inakimion, completes the report.
Education Board JAMB has approved 150 as the minimum cut-off mark for admission into public and private universities for the 2026 academic section. The decision was reached at the 2026 policy meeting on admission held in Abuja Monday, attended by the Minister of Education, Tunji Alausa, alongside stakeholders from tertiary institutions across the country. Alausa stated that the approved benchmark remains the same as last year despite proposals from institutions ranging between 130 and 220 before voting was conducted. JAM also fixed 150 as minimum admission cut-off mark for colleges of nursing sciences nationwide, an increase from the 114 benchmark used in the previous year. For polytechnics, the minimum cut-off mark was retained at 100.
Minimum score for you to be admitted to any monotechnic or polytechnic in this country today now stands at 100. If you score 100 less than 100, you cannot be admitted. For colleges of nursing, the minimum score is 150. Anything less than that, you cannot be admitted to any of the colleges of nursing. For universities, the minimum score is 150 to be admitted to any of our universities, both public and private.
The meeting also resolved that candidates seeking admission into NCE programs in colleges of education will no longer be required to sit for Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination (UTME).
Accordingly, candidates seeking admission into the NCE program who possess a minimum of 4 credits will no longer be required to sit for the UTME. However, it is imperative to emphasize that such candidates shall mandatorily register with JAMB and their credentials shall be duly screened, verified and certified for the insurance of admission to our CAFs in accordance with extant regulations.
The JAMB registrar Isha Koloide said institutions willing to conduct post-UTME screening are permitted to do so, but warned that screening fee must not exceed 2,000 naira. He added that no institution is allowed to request results updates from candidates, noting that JAMB would directly provide verified candidate data to institutions to curb impersonation and examination malpractice.
But the gross charge for screening should not exceed 2,000 naira only. If it is not allowed for any institution to make candidates directly or indirectly incur other expenses like paying service provider and all the rest, no institution is allowed to recapture, demand any result upload, photograph or biometric for any candidate. Rather, the pictures and the result of candidates supplied by JAMB should be used for the exam.
I also wish to emphasize the importance of aligning admissions with national manpower needs and emerging global realities. Institutions must continue to prioritize programs that equip graduates with relevant skills, entrepreneurial competencies, digital literacy, and the capacity to contribute meaningfully to national development in the 21st century economy.
Stakeholders at the meeting expressed optimism that the new admission guidelines will strengthen the integrity of the admission process while ensuring wider access to tertiary education for qualified candidates. JAMB says institutions are expected to strictly comply with the approved benchmark and admission procedures as preparations begin for the 2026 academic section. From Abuja, Marian Inahimion, MITV Plus News.
The West African Examination Council has reiterated its zero tolerance for examination malpractice. The head of the Nigerian National Office of WAEC, Amos Josiah Dangote, made this known while speaking with journalists in Lagos, warning rogue website operators against engaging in activities capable of undermining the integrity of the examination process. He disclosed that about 1,959,636 candidates from 24,207 schools registered for the ongoing 2026 computer-based WAEC examination for school candidates across Nigeria. Dangote said WAEC has continued to strengthen its examination processes through technological innovations, including the serialization of examination papers, to ensure that no two candidates receive the same sequence of questions. The head of national office noted that the innovation is aimed at upholding the academic and moral integrity of the national policy on education.
The Council decisively addresses examination malpractice. Penalties will be meted out to erring candidates, supervisors, and schools as approved by the Nigerian Examinations Committee, NEC. Awareness campaigns, seminars, and sensitization materials, that is flyers, banners, and posters, have been deployed nationwide to educate all stakeholders. Candidates must write only the papers assigned to them. Any deviation will attract consequences. What we're saying is that they must answer the paper given to them. If there's an absentee, it must be returned as absentee are not given to any candidate that is present. Parents and guardians are urged to encourage their wards to study diligently and avoid malpractice. Schools engaging in cheating will be derecognized, officials punished, and candidates sanctioned.
The Edo State Police Command has launched an investigation into a fatal shooting incident that occurred on Sunday at approximately 5 p.m. around the University of Benin Access in Benin City. According to a statement signed by the Police Public Relations Officer, ASP Eno Ekwodem, preliminary investigations reveal that 3 occupants of a Mercedes-Benz GLK vehicle on Wuke Blessed, Alexander Omigiate, and Chinenye Christian Mbago were driving out of Uniben when an unidentified white GLK vehicle reportedly intercepted them at the university's main gate. The occupant of the suspect's vehicle reportedly lowered the windows and opened fire on the victims before fleeing to an unknown destination. The Edo State Police Command sternly warned all criminal elements and hoodlums operating within the state, particularly around the university campuses, to desist from acts of violence and criminality, adding that it remains resolute in its commitment to rid Edo State of all forms of crime. Justice Peter Olifo of the Federal High Court, Abuja, has adjourned proceedings in the suit challenging the eligibility of former President Goodluck Jonathan to contest the 2027 presidential election, following the absence of the plaintiff and his counsel in court. This was as a result of the plaintiff's absence in court. During the day's proceedings, counsel to the defendant, Chris Uche San, drew the court's attention to the plaintiff's absence, noting that the matter had earlier been adjourned at the plaintiff's instance. However, the court opted to give the plaintiff another opportunity and adjourned the matter to May 15, 2026, directing that all parties be duly served before the next hearing and warning that punitive costs may be awarded against the plaintiff if there is another failure to appear. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Joash Amupiton, has reaffirmed the critical role of core members in Nigeria's democratic process, revealing that INEC would mobilize over 1.4 million ad hoc staff, largely drawn from the National Youth Service Corps NYSC, for the 2027 general elections. Amokwito made this known while leading a high-powered delegation of national commissioners, the secretary to the commission, directors, and senior aides on a strategic courtesy visit to the headquarters of the NYSC in Abuja. According to a statement by INEC on Monday, the delegation was received by the Director General of the NYSC, Brigadier General Olakunle Nafiu, and members of the scheme senior management team at the Yakubu Gowon House. The NYSC DG also appealed for improved welfare, compensation and insurance packages for core members participating in election assignments, stressing that adequate support will motivate them to continue serving the nation diligently. The National Youth Council of Nigeria has criticized the Arewa Youth Assembly over its call for impeachment of Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun and Enugu State Governor Peter Mba. Speaking during a press conference on Monday, the National Vice President of the Council, Comrade Kehinde Damilola, described the move as misplaced and counterproductive. He said youth groups should not be dragged into internal politics disputes within the Progressives Governors Forum, adding that Nigerian youth should focus more on pressing national issues such as unemployment, insecurity, education, and economic hardship. Also speaking, the Ogun State coordinator of the Commonwealth Youth Organization, Emmanuel Ojo, applauded Governor Abiodun for his support for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and assured him of the support of Ogun State youth against any move to have him dismissed.
Do not bastardize the youth constituency with this kind of politics influenced by the grunted element. The progressive Governors Forum is an internal APC structure with its own mechanism for resolving disputes, and that using the name of the northern youth to advance partisan interests undermine the credibility of youth advocacy nationwide. We hereby stress that young people should focus their energy on matters that is directly affect their future, that is the future of the young people of Nigeria. The youth should not involve in serious national issues rather than criticizing something that is not worth it. Our priority as a young Nigeria is include unemployment, insecurity, education, and economic hardship.
There is no doubt that Governor Dapo Abiodun has not been working consistently and effectively to advance the presidency agenda.
The All Progressives Congress APC State House of Assembly Screening Committee in Rivers State has screened a total of 98 aspirants seeking to contest the party's primaries for the State House of Assembly seat across the 32 constituencies in the state. Speaking after the screening exercise at the party secretariat in Port Harcourt, the secretary of the committee, Tanko Yamowa, who represented the chairman, Mauriana Ajibola, described the exercise as peaceful and successful and expressed satisfaction with the orderly conduct of the aspirants. He noted that no aspirant was discriminated against during the screening process and that the committee would review its report before making final decisions on the outcome of the exercise. Also speaking, the publicity secretary of the party in Rivers State, Chibuike Ikenga, described the screening exercise as seamless, as peaceful, noting that all aspirants were subjected to the party's screening procedures in line with the Constitution of the party, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Electoral Act as amended. The race for the 2027 general elections is already heating up with familiar patterns of political realignment, defections, and strategic maneuvering across party lines beginning to dominate the landscape. Though this trend is not new in Nigeria's democracy, it continues to carry significant implications for governance, party ideology, and the credibility of the electoral process. Our correspondent, Fatoki Kunle, takes a look at the ongoing defections and realignment as political parties and other stakeholders prepare for the next cycle of elections. Lagos State is set to introduce its own driver's license in partnership with the federal government as part of efforts to improve safety, strengthen traffic regulation, and speed up the issuance processes for motorists across the state. The Commissioner for Transportation, Oluwaseun Oshiyemi, disclosed this on Monday during the 2026 annual ministerial press briefing held at Alausa, Ikeja, to mark the 7th anniversary of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's administration in the second term. Oshiyemi said the new Lagos State driver's license will be launched within the next few weeks and would operate alongside the existing federal driver's license system. He disclosed that a total of 1,114,080 roadworthiness certificates were issued during the period under review, reflecting increased compliance with vehicle safety regulations across the state.
From Marina to Mile 2, and we've carried over 6 million passengers since inception. And then from Mile 2 to Kukumaiko, which is the phase 2 that is currently being worked on, the daily trips on the Blue Line in 2025 moved from 57 to 72 to 90. Then we have the 4 carriages operating daily out of 6 blue rail carriages. The ridership is about 3.5 million in the year 2025 alone. And the current daily ridership is about 15,000 passengers. The Lagos State government, through the Office of the SSA on Transportation and Logistics, launched Driver Care Initiative, offering free eye screening, drug test, and recertification training to commercial drivers to enhance road safety and welfare. The program was flagged off at Lily Pond Terminal, Ijora, and extended to other motor parks, targeting 10,000 drivers as beneficiaries. They did not just stop at that. We went ahead to also give police officers those glasses to ensure that they also are beneficiaries of this. The whole idea is to be able to help or assist our drivers in terms of visibility.
And from Lagos to the foreign scenes, French President Emmanuel Macron urged investment in Africa on Monday as he co-hosted an economic summit in Kenya after defending European involvement on the continent. The European leader, speaking at the University of Nairobi, said Africa needs investment to become more sovereign, replacing aid with economic opportunities. Speaking in French, Macron said previously European chiefs would lecture African leaders on what they needed, but this is no longer what Africa needs or wants to hear. Ahead of the summit, in an interview with the magazines Jeune Afrique and the Africa Report, the French leader said he first strongly condemned colonialism when he came to power in 2017. European former colonial powers such as France and the United Kingdom remain targets for criticism in Africa, but Macron maintained that they were not the predators of this century and added that, in contrast, the United States and China were locked in a trade standoff with no respect for the rules. The Israeli military on Monday said it had sentenced 2 soldiers to imprisonment after one of them was photographed placing a cigarette in the mouth of a statue of the Virgin Mary in southern Lebanon. According to the military, the incident took place several weeks ago in southern Lebanon and was investigated by commanders on the ground. In a separate post on X, military spokeswoman Lieutenant Colonel Ariela Meza said, the IDF views the incident with utmost severity and emphasized that the conduct of the soldier completely deviates from the values expected of its personnel. In late April, the military said 2 soldiers would receive 30 days of military detention and be removed from combat duty over destruction of a statue of Jesus Christ in southern Lebanese village of Debel. In that incident, a photo was shared online showing an Israeli soldier using a sledgehammer to strike the head of a statue of a crucified Jesus. And now to sports news. Spain appeared to have taken another blow before the World Cup when midfielder Nico Williams departed Athletic Club's La Liga with an apparent hamstring injury. Williams sustained the injury before halftime in Athletic Bilbao's 1-0 loss to Valencia home on Sunday, prompting concerns for European champion Spain as the countdown to the global tournament hits the 1-month mark. Williams has scored 6 goals in 30 appearances with Spain's national team since 2022. He has 6 goals with 7 assists in 32 games for Athletic Club this season. His injury has compounded Spain's worries as they were already sweating over star-forward Lamine Yamal's fitness. Yamal went down with a torn hamstring last month while playing for Barcelona. Spain are in Group H at the World Cup in North America, and they will play their first 2 games in Atlanta, Georgia, facing Cape Verde on June 15 and Saudi Arabia on June 21. Anthony Edwards scored 16 of his 36 points in the 4th quarter, and the Minnesota Timberwolves took advantage of Victor Wembanyama's ejection to post a 114-109 win over the San Antonio Spurs. The Timberwolves' win on Sunday night in Minneapolis tied the Western Conference second-round series at 2 games apiece. Naz Reid contributed 15 points and 9 rebounds off the bench for Minnesota. He also took an elbow from Wembanyama into his chin on the play in which the Spurs stars were ejected in the 2nd quarter. Jaden McDaniels scored 14 points, Julius Randle scored 12, and Rudy Gobert had 11 points and 13 rebounds for the Timberwolves. Ayo Dosunmu added 10 points for Minnesota. De'Aaron Fox and reserve Dylan Harper scored 24 points each, and Stephen Castle added 20 for the Spurs. Devin Vassell tallied 14 points for San Antonio. Wembanyama had 4 points, 4 rebounds, and no blocks in 12-plus minutes. The Spurs trailed by 7 before Harper made 2 free throws with 29.1 seconds left, and Julian Champagny hit 2 with 20.6 seconds remaining to bring San Antonio within 112 and 109. And this is where we draw the curtain on Primetime News tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Please follow us on all our social media platforms at MITV+_NG on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. You can also watch our programs live on YouTube at MITV+_NG. Please remember to click and the like and the subscribe button. I am Layo Shobo for Lauren Shaw. To have a good evening.